Hi, I'm Robin Shea, and I live 80-20. And what that means is 80% of the time I cook clean and healthy and keep it as close to nature as possible. But I always save 20% for a guilt-free Southern indulgence. Hi, I'm Robin Shea, and I live 80-20. And what that means is that 80% of the time I keep my cooking clean and healthy and as close to nature as possible. But I always save 20% for a guilt-free indulgence. Now today's show, we have two 80% recipes that are sure to please, so let's get started. Now the first recipe is going to be turkey and rice stuffed peppers, and I want to get right into that one. And the second 80% recipe is a wonderful complement to this first one. So let's get started. We have our saucepan here, and to it, this has to simmer together for about 20 minutes. So we're gonna get this going first. We're gonna add to our saucepan just some low sodium, preferably sugar-free tomato sauce. Again, preferably low sodium and sugar-free on that. And then we're also going to add to that just some good quality salsa. And this is really a great time saver. If you can get a good organic whole salsa, you've already got your peppers, your onions, your tomatoes, everything all diced up. Plus it's typically seasoned really nicely too. So we're gonna add our salsa. We're gonna add a little oregano. We have some cumin. Of course, chili powder. And then some good quality sea salt as well. Turn my heat on, and then we're also going to add some really good quality chicken stock. And this is also a great opportunity to, again, control your sodium. So if you find a chicken stock with cut back sodium or low sodium version, it would be a great choice to make. So let's just give this a little stir. I'm going to turn my heat up because we do want to bring this to a boil. Make sure that all of those flavors are marrying together really well. And then we're gonna come back, once it does go to a boil, we're gonna come back and add our rice. So let me set this off to the side and get our peppers going. There, we'll just let that start boiling. Okay, we have 4 different color peppers, and they're each going to lend a wonderful, unique flavor. Of course, the lighter color peppers, the red, the yellow, and the orange, are gonna be slightly sweeter than the green pepper. They're all delicious. So use the ones that you love best, or go with a variety. It makes a beautiful presentation. In our dish here, we've put about a ½ inch of water on the bottom. So let's talk about preparing the peppers really quickly. Beautiful peppers. You can always tell when a pepper is nice and primed and ready, and when it's been sitting a little bit too long in your grocer's section. When it starts to pull away here, you'll be able to tell that it's just been sitting there a little too long. So you want everything nice and tight on the top of your pepper. Of course, just pop out the top, very, very simple to do. The seeds are going to be very bitter. So if you can get all of the seeds out, and then just nice and clean with your knife, remove those sides. Have your dump bowl ready beside you. And there you go. Okay, so here we go. I think I hear a little activity over here in my sauce, and it's a nice, gentle roll. So we're gonna add our rice. Just give it a little stir, and this is gonna take 15-20 minutes for it to absorb all of the liquid. So let me get this covered up. Now we're gonna go over to the stovetop and get our turkey all browned and ready to go and to add to our rice and sauce mixture. So let's go brown our turkey. So the first thing we wanna do is make sure that our pan is kind of medium-low heat, because we're gonna add just a little bit of olive oil to this, and we don't want it too hot. So that's just about perfect. Now this would be a great opportunity to add one more flavor into the mix. Now we're not going to do it here, but if you wanted to go to the time and caramelize some onions prior to cooking your turkey in it, it would add just one more layer of flavor on these delicious, delicious peppers. So that's one thing you could do. We're going to get this good and coated. The turkey is not going to put off very much grease at all, so you really don't have to worry about draining it. But let's just get it in our pan and get it going. And this was an opportunity that we took to clean this recipe up by using the ground turkey. Typically you would make this with beef, but the ground turkey is just a lot leaner than the beef. If you even wanted to take it a step further, when you added your rice to the dish, you could also add some quinoa or some other really hearty grain and omit the turkey altogether. You could also use some tempeh, which would be wonderful, and that of course will add back that meat texture. So don't limit yourself to everything that I'm doing here. Expand and take it in your own direction. So let's give this just a little bit of time. My fire needs to come up some to brown up and do its thing. So that about has it. And as you can see, it cooked off very, very little fat, nothing that we really need to worry about. So we're gonna take this back over to our pot, add it to our rice and our sauce, and then stuff our peppers. So let's go back over to the other stove. This entire kitchen smells absolutely amazing. And of course the rice has absorbed all of the moisture. It's nice and creamy. And let's just add our turkey right to the mix. There we go. We're gonna add a little stir, get it nice and blended together, and then we're gonna stuff our peppers. The oven is preheated and ready to go. So this is absolutely perfect. Let's go ahead and get our peppers stuffed. Another thing you could add to this delicious mixture is maybe some mushrooms. Mushrooms would be wonderful. And that will, again, if you're wanting to omit the meat, that'll make a nice hearty add-on that really imitates meat nicely. So mushrooms are wonderful. Cook with them all the time, use them. My boys love them, my husband loves them. They're packed full of goodness, so mushrooms would be a great addition to this recipe. And what is so fun is when you have so many colors on a plate, you know that you're getting every source of vitamin available. Remember, color, variety, eat the rainbow, all of that is really good stuff and really does make a difference in your nutrition when you consume color. All right, we just about have it. We're gonna top this off with just a little bit of cheese, not a lot. Again, you can really sabotage yourself when you take the things that are very high in fat content and just go overboard with them. Just a little bit of cheese is all you're going to need to bring this to life. So just top it off very conservatively. A little bit more there, and I think maybe the yellow got cheated just a little bit, so we'll sprinkle some more on her. Again, this is mozzarella. Parmesan would be wonderful too. Both are very friendly cheeses, meaning that they're a better choice when you're really wanting to cut back on your fat. So mozzarella, Parmesan, you can feel good about those. So what I'm gonna do next is pop these in the oven, and while they're cooking, we're gonna prepare our squash rounds, roasted squash rounds with a little bit of Parmesan and garlic on them. So the turkey and rice peppers are in the oven. The entire house smells absolutely amazing. And what would be a great companion to those wonderful peppers? Well, I think that these beautiful zucchini rounds, both the green zucchini and the yellow zucchini, have such a wonderful flavor. This entire 80% of today's show is starting to feel like a farmer's market show, because all of these foods are things that you typically find at your community's farmer's market. So let's talk about the zucchini. When we're roasting them, we do it very quickly at a relatively high heat. So this is going to be 375 degrees. This process is very, very simple, but let's talk about how thick we want to slice them. We really do want them not quite a half an inch, but maybe pretty close to a half an inch. That may even be a little thin. because they're gonna retain their crunch the larger that they are. We don't want them too large that they don't cook all the way through. So maybe right at about a ½ inch would be a good size to shoot for. So there you go with that. I already have them all cut up here. So just put them in your bowl, have your oven preheated, and that's is what I'm gonna start with right now. Have some good quality olive oil. And you know, typically when you think of zucchini and squash, especially in the South, and I say that with all kinds of love because that's exactly where I'm from, but we blend squash and zucchinis in all kinds of casseroles, mixing in hordes of cheese and butter and crackers on top and all of these wonderful flavors that certainly have their place in your life, just not in your 80%. But you know, it cheats you of the wonderful flavor of these summer favorites. So just topping them with a little bit of olive oil and then sprinkling on some Italian seasoning. A little bit of coarse sea salt will really help to brighten the flavor as well. It really is a nice addition, a nice coarse salt. And then just a little bit of Parmesan to boot. And you've got a fresh, wonderful, very healthy side dish to go with your wonderful peppers. So let's get this all blended well. I'm gonna put it in my baking dish, which I have treated with just a little bit of olive oil so it won't stick at the bottom. Another oil that you could use on this dish, because we are cooking it at 375 degrees, would be grapeseed oil. It has a little higher smoking point. It has a smoking point of 400, so you can cook at a little higher temperature and not worry about losing any of the wonderful health benefits. So let's just get these lined out in our dish. We'll pop it in the oven. I'm gonna get this area cleaned up because when we come back, we kind of have another farmer's market type feel dish. It's our grab and go, and it's Caprese skewers. And what a healthy, wonderful snack to grab fresh out of your refrigerator. And remember, one of the worst things that you can do when you're really trying to reinvent your relationship with food is allow yourself to get too hungry. So make sure that you have creative, fun, wonderful, wholesome, and clean grab-and-goes ready in your refrigerator so you never fall victim really to your own self-sabotage, because hunger can really make you make some foolish food choices. We all know that. So I want to leave a little bit of space in between these so the air has room to move and so they get nice and they retain their crisp. They don't start to steam, put off too much moisture and start to steam and get nice and soggy. We want them nice and crisp. They're perfect, they're ready to pop in. So now it's time for our grab and go, and nothing says summer quite like a beautiful Caprese skewer. Again, farmer's market favorites. We have our beautiful cherry tomatoes, our fresh basil, our mozzarella, good quality olive oil, and of course a wonderful sea salt. You could also top these with a little bit of cracked pepper. Now let me show you how we're gonna cut our tomatoes. We're not gonna cut halfways, we're gonna cut long ways. So cut down like that. If you wanted to seed the tomatoes, you could, and the way that you would do that is simply cut them in half, squeeze gently to get, these don't have a lot of liquid in them, so we're pretty safe. But if you wanted to, you could get the jelly out that way as well. These are so small that you could certainly just skewer these right on because they'll just pop right in your mouth. So that's how you would prep the tomatoes. So the way that we're gonna assemble these is we're gonna go tomato first, beautiful fresh piece of basil, and you may wanna fold this over, maybe even twice. And then we're gonna have our mozzarella. We just want enough of the mozzarella so that it doesn't get wiggly and actually come off. And then again with the tomato, beautiful fresh basil. You know, I think basil is the one herb that I could eat straight out of the garden. I just think it is so fabulous and just adds such a, oh, I lost that one. Let me start with another fresh one. And add such a wonderful taste of summer that I absolutely love it. One more piece of basil, and that's probably plenty right there. Lay that on your plate. And if your children are anything like mine, my boys weren't always open to the beautiful colors of farmer market type foods. They were a little more conservative. They had to warm up to things just a little bit. But over time, I just kept presenting them with the foods. And it may have been 6, 7 times before they actually tasted it. And then they may have even turned their nose up at it that time. But repeated exposure kind of breaks them. And when it comes to fresh food, that's what we're looking to do. We want to break them. We want them to realize that this is the stuff. This is what it's made of. Beautiful, whole, close to nature as absolutely you can possibly get. That's what will nourish your body. That's where we live. I'll ask the boys sometimes, of course they laugh at me. They think that I'm a little neurotic when it comes to our health. But I'll ask them, where do we live? Do we live in our 80% or do we live in our 20%? We live in our 80%, Mom. So when we live in our 80%, there doesn't have to be any guilt about our 20%. It certainly doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all. You could still choose wonderful, wholesome products to create your 20% celebrations with, but it doesn't have to be a guilt process. You can really just enjoy those dishes and know it's not where you live, it's just where you celebrate from time to time. So we have these just about all finished. Of course, there's enough here to make several more, but we're gonna wrap it up about here and drizzle our olive oil on top. These just look wonderful. So a little bit of olive oil, good quality olive oil, will really help to bring out the flavor. If you're presenting these or preparing these for any type of party, you can drizzle your olive oil, sprinkle with just a little bit of dried parsley. It just makes a nice little pop at the bottom of the plate. And just a little bit of the sea salt. It's about all you need. Wonderful snack. It will save you from those moments of just being really, really hungry and falling victim to some really poor food choices. Have these on hand. So now it's time for our 20% celebration, and no better way, especially when you're celebrating Farmers Market Day, than summer corn cakes. So let me talk about a few of the things that we're going to get into before I start mixing it all together. We have some really finely diced chives here. We have some jalapenos that we've diced up, as well as the fresh corn. I'm going to cut a little bit more off of the cob. Some buttermilk, some butter, a little bit of oil for our cast iron skillet. But I want to talk about some other directions that we can take this recipe into. Believe it or not, when I was a little girl, my nanny would make just a batch of corn cakes in the morning. And she would leave them out on the counter and we would snack on them as kids all day long. So this is really kind of a Southern favorite, and for me brings back a lot of just wonderful, wonderful memories. But some of the things that she would add into her corn cakes would be bacon, cheddar cheese, maybe the Ortega chilies that are a little milder than the jalapeno chilies. So there's a lot of different directions that you can take this, but let's get started. And the first thing that I want to do is we want to get our oil nice and hot. And it's a little kind of a persnickety process. So let's go ahead and add our oil because we're literally going to be kind of frying these up in the oil. So we're gonna let that heat together for just a second, and we're gonna come back and check it, and I'll show you how to check your oil and make sure that the temperature is right. Let's cut just a little bit more corn off of this corn cob. You do want your corn prepared, so you wanna boil it so it's not hard and it just cuts off so nicely. Just like that. Sweet summer corn. Absolutely fantastic. Your corn is one of the things that acts as your binding agent in this recipe, so the batter is going to be relatively thick. So don't get freaked out if your batter is a little thick, it'll be just fine. So let me scoop this into our bowl. Plus the corn is going to release a little bit of moisture, so that'll add to it as well. To this, I'm going to scoop in a little bit more of the corn. And to this, we're going to add some whole wheat flour, some cornmeal as well. We have a little bit of salt that we're putting in there, kind of wake it up, and we have some baking powder and baking soda. Let me get this stirred together with our corn. Buttermilk and corn cakes. That's a familiar image in my mind from my childhood, so just makes me smile. I don't know if corn cakes are as big everywhere as they are in the South, but it is something that we always love. Corn pudding, corn cakes, you name it. We enjoy it. So let's go ahead and add our chives that we've chopped up. Wonderful flavor, really add a wonderful flavor there. And of course our jalapeno, and just remember that these are always optional. You can take them as hot as you'd like, as mild as you would like. They add a wonderful flavor to these corn cakes. But again, if they're not something that, that you want to use, don't beat yourself up, don't use them. Now let's add the liquids to it. I think we've got it nice and blended. And it calls for buttermilk. Blend our buttermilk in. It also calls for just some melted butter. Get that in there as well. And then 2 eggs. Just perfect. You know, corn cakes are good at breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Kind of sweeten them up for breakfast if you're wanting to enjoy them first thing in the morning. Go fantastic with barbecue or roasted turkey or roasted chicken. Make a wonderful complement to that. So see, you have a nice, thick, really thick batter. A little more stirring, make sure it all gets in there. And then we're gonna test our oil. Make sure that our oil is hot enough to receive these so that they do what they're supposed to do quickly in the oil. Okay, that looks just about perfect. And what I'm gonna do to test the oil is I'm gonna pick off just a little bit of the batter. Come over here and we're waiting, we're listening for it to sizzle. And there it goes. It's starting to do its thing. You can see all the activity toward the bottom and you can hear the sizzle, so our oil is perfect. We'll come back over here to our batter and we're gonna add some medallion size pieces to the oil and let them start frying up. There we go. Think of a crab cake because this is very similar in design and style to a crab cake. So we're not going to worry about perfection. This is all about just good quality flavor and everything blending together. We'll flatten them out just a little bit more when we flip them over. So I think I can probably get 3 more in my pan. Being a little brave with that grease, aren't I? 1 more should do it. We'll let these fry up and then I'll flip them. I'm gonna get this area cleaned up. I'm gonna pull out of the oven our stuffed turkey and rice bell peppers, as well as our delicious little rounds with the Parmesan and the Italian seasonings. I'm gonna pull also out our Caprese that has been chilling in the refrigerator. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Robin Shea, and we have created 2 amazing 80% recipes because that's what it's all about. We live in our 80% healthy side of life. We made these delicious stuffed peppers with turkey and rice and a wonderful tomato-based sauce. Of course, we made these zucchini and Parmesan rounds with a little bit of Italian seasoning, a little bit of olive oil, and some sea salt, and we baked those off. Our grab-and-go snack today are these Caprese skewers with a little bit of fresh basil, fresh mozzarella, a little olive oil, and of course some wonderful sea salt sprinkled on the top. Our 20% celebration is nothing other than summer corn cakes. This entire dish, everything you're looking at here is kind of an homage to farmers markets. All fresh, wonderful, fantastic food. I don't even know where to start, but I think I'm going to start right here in these beautiful peppers. Until next time, please remember, always keep it 80% healthy, 20% indulgent, and 100% delicious. See you next time. Mm.